Hello, everyone, and welcome to XboxEra 1v1, or in this case, another episode of 1v2. As today, I'm joined by Trisha Stouffer, CEO of Stoic, and Daniel McLaren, the game director for Towerborne, which is what we're talking about today. If you've just seen our review, we'll have this page embedded anyway, but I've plowed over 20 hours of time into the early access review with a full squad of friends and thoroughly enjoyed it, I might add. It's coming out in early access on Steam right now as the time this video goes live. I think the first question has to be, how excited are you now that you've gone from all of this kind of pre-build up, all of the time and effort you've put into getting to launch to getting it out and into players' hands in a more public environment? Who's
so
going to go
excited,
first?
It's hard to speak. It's always the dream to have the game in players' hands and see how they respond and react, and we can't wait for that. Really, we talk about it a lot. We talk about it most every day, how we're really looking forward to seeing what the reaction is. You never know. We think we've got something great.
It's making games, man. Woo! It's a whole lot of build up for that release, and then everybody has all of their feedback and their thoughts, and then it's a whole lot of build up trying to meet expectations after that point. I love it. Wouldn't change it for the world. It's nice to be working on something that you feel good about as a developer, where you're like, this is actually a really cool idea and I really enjoy working on this sort of thing, and I can't wait for people to have that. There's a lot of games I've worked on where I'm like, well, glad to have done my job.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you. I suppose as soon as you hit early access, the real work begins, right? Because the whole point of this, from Stoic's point of view, is to get that community and build with that community, as I understand it, right? Because I think that, understandably, from perhaps the console side of the gaming world, there's some Xbox players that are a bit like, shucks, I was looking forward to playing Towerborne, and they've got a little longer to wait, but for good reason, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, that's been Stoic's entire history. We started our first game, Banner Saga, and by we, I mean them. I wasn't here for that particular awesome release, but they started on Kickstarter, and the idea was, hey, if you support us, we will give you builds so that you can play this stuff early. They built a whole separate game called Banner Saga Factions, which was strictly just to have people playing in the combat so that they could refine it and get it to a spot where they were like, this is the core element of Banner Saga's combat system. And so it just makes sense for us to give this to the players and have them play it. We're just really lucky that this time we could actually build the majority of the game first and then give it to anybody and everybody who wanted to participate in this, as opposed to, hey, if you missed the Kickstarter window, sorry,
you're out of luck. Yeah.
Little known fact, Factions is still out there. We tried to close it down, and the community was like, no, and just give us the code and we'll manage it ourselves. So we did, and it's still there. Amazing. So we'd love to have that relationship with the community and players. It's done wonders for us.
That's brilliant. And speaking of Banner Saga, I've noticed, obviously, Banner Saga got quite serious at times, right? The art style for Towerborne is remarkably similar, not exactly the same. In fact, it feels more vibrant, it feels punchier, it feels more lighthearted, even though we have things like, the destruction of the city of numbers, and, humanity's running away from evil giant frogs, things like that. Where did the inspiration for the art style come from? Was it a continuation of kind of what Stoic was known for, or did it just feel right for this kind of game?
Yeah, it's a shift. Banner Saga was based on sort of 1950s Sleeping Beauty sort of art style. This is much more inspired by Ghibli. The inspiration was, when you're watching the game, it's as if you're watching an animated film. And so this is how we came to it. And it started with Arnie Jorgensen, who's our chief creative officer, was the artist on Banner Saga. And it just, as we expanded the team and grew the art team more and more, it's blossomed into something beautiful. I think that's definitely one of the number one things we hear about the game, is it's just beautiful to look at, beautiful to listen to.
Yeah, it's the
Anime
soundtrack is cracking.
Yeah. Oh no, it totally is. And I mean, it fits with that whole anime style too, right? Like it was kind of the vibe. And I think you'd hit on it before. We were just looking for something coming out of Banner Saga that felt much more lighthearted, felt much more accessible to people. One of the big things, and we've talked about this quite a bit, is the founders sat down and said, you know what, we got finished making our depression simulator. We'd like to have something that we could sit down and play with our kids and just have a good time with and not really feel that heavy weight. And you come out of something like that and it really does weigh on you. How do you keep writing? How do you keep creating things that are that heavy? And I suppose there are people out there who absolutely could. For us, it was like we just needed a creative breather and we needed to step back and do something completely different. And that's really where this game was born.
A little palate cleanser, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
And
yeah,
it's interesting.
Something super fun, easy to get into, and anyone can play it. So very, very approachable, but also very complex for, very skilled players and players playing these types of games for quite some time. I think everyone will enjoy that.
It's interesting as well that you mentioned about accessibility and it being great for kids. Hope the NDA isn't broken, but my 10-year-old has seen me playing and he's like, what is this and when can I play it? And I'm like, not yet. And you haven't got a PC, so suck it up, son. You have to wait till a little bit later. It's coming to your console. But the style of game, I commented on it in my review, in that when I play, and I would describe it as it's first-person shooter or third-person shooter cousins, right? Because for folks unaware, Towerborne is a seasonal, alive game. It's going to get continual updates and content as you work with your community. And what I loved was that there were a couple of my crew that were like, I want the sweat, as they described it, of a first-person shooter. It was like, hey, I've killed that guy. He's dead on my X, etc. But me and my best friend, we were like, oh man, this is nice and chill. We're actually having a conversation. It's still got the complexity. And I want to make sure that I'm understood when I say this. It's not button mashy. You can, to a certain degree, button mash to a point that you're going to hit a roadblock and you're going to have to up your game. But it's so nice to be able to play something where everyone's still having a conversation. In some ways, it reminded me of like the in-between carnage of Sea of Thieves in that regard. Was that part of that plan, or did that just come about naturally when you think?
I think it came about totally naturally. One of the things that I like to talk about with this is, the core mechanics or the core loop of the game is about loot. And if you look at various games, they use very similar systems, right? So like Sea of Thieves and COD and all that sort of stuff. It's like, hey, I'm going and I'm doing this thing to acquire loot and get more powerful and to do these other things. But how they represent the interaction, for COD, it's shooter style. For Sea of Thieves, it's that over the shoulder or first person, whatever you want to kind of get into there. For us, we're like, nobody's really kind of done this core loop in the West in a brawler side-scrolling action setup.
Exactly.
And so the mindset was, we knew that there was never going to be the kind of intensity that being in on a map, 6v6 or whatever shooter like that intensity. We knew that wasn't what we were going for, but we did want to strive for a level of mastery that felt like, oh, my investment was worth it. I can't wait to see what boss they'll release next, because I think I've got this whole game on lock. Meanwhile, we're going like, okay, people are able to do this and this. Let's give them something that pushes that boundary. And simultaneously, like, we fully expect people to go, I shall forego all gear and swear an oath to the Twitch gods that I shall beat this game naked. Great. Like, Godspeed, son. Like, good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can imagine it as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There's going to be people that are going to try and take it on, like not give themselves any aspects and things like that. And you mentioned like the bosses. Like we were early levels, we were steamrolling. We were experienced gamers. We got to Yixel. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Ixel. Yeah.
Okay, he taught us a thing of teamwork. That took a few goes.
Yes. That's a fun boss.
It's brilliantly animated as well. It really changed the game up as well. Like suddenly you were like, whoa, okay, hang on, let's regroup, let's check. And it was at that point the gear system came in for us and that loot progression, because it was suddenly like, okay, well now what have you got equipped? Okay, well I'm going to build off of. And that's the other beautiful thing that I really enjoyed about Towerborne is you can look really cool. It's just button mashing. You can look even cooler if you know what you're doing, but you can look even cooler if you're working with a team that knows what they're doing, and you're bouncing moves off of them, and then they're coming in and just reading you and the animations. It flows incredibly well. It's obviously very performant. Are there plans to give this some sort of Steam Deck approval for the early access? Dare I ask?
In the plans, for sure. It's we didn't focus on it for release day. It's close, but we haven't submitted it for certification. But certainly, I know there's ways of it's worth giving it a try, even if it's not certified.
I think
I've heard it works well on other handhelds, and I have to say, Towerborne is a game made for a handheld. I think it's fantastic, and part of that is the controls are great. It runs really well, but also, do you want to play for 5 minutes or 5 hours? Like either of those is easy to do in Towerborne. Just go play one mission. 5-8 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
Arnie was playing yesterday and sent a note telling me, I started playing and it's 4 hours have gone by. Then 5 hours had gone by. Oh shoot, I forgot to eat lunch. So I mean, it's pretty fun, pretty compelling.
Yeah, for sure. And we've talked about the loot progression system. It's a seasonal live service game, and I feel like this is a pretty salient question. It's no secret that the industry seems to struggle sometimes with live service games. Like we've had it recently with certain first-person shooter releases. They've come out the gate and it's just not landed, or teams have planned for it and then the plan's fallen through. I recently spoke to the CEO for 1047 Games on Splitgate 2, and he was talking about how we have to plan for it, and that's why they stopped Splitgate 1 and built that plan so that they came out the gate running. This is obviously a first for Stoic in terms of it's a seasonal content game. Is there any nervousness? I mean, can you talk a little bit about what those plans are, as you go forward? I'm not asking you to reveal any super secret upcoming things, but are you confident in that plan, I suppose?
Of course. Look, the thing is, I hate the term live service because it
makes people go, oh no, I hate it, right? I'm exactly the same.
It feels clinical. Like this isn't like a platform where I'm selling a bunch of household items that you need. This is a living game, and it's interesting. A lot of people ask us this question. We have a lot of people on the team who have worked on MMOs and living games kind of in the past. That's been my whole career for 20 years, is working on games that have been living, and some of them are still alive, as some of them are not. That is the way of it. But for us, when we sat down and kind of talked about what we wanted to do, we were a very, very small team when this project kicked off, like 12 people. And so the reality was, what can 12 people do to bring something to life? Now, by the graciousness of Xbox, they have allowed us to grow this team and to continue to expand the content. And I think we have an enormous amount of content ready for early access, about 40-ish hours, depending on how aggressive people play. But the idea was, it's not enough. Like, if this kind of game really connects with the players, we didn't want to just say like, well, here's your box DLC and that's $40 and you got to give it to us. We wanted to actually see how people were playing, create content as people were playing, and deploy it for free without obligation to pay.
Yeah.
And just continue to expand this so that people could have a game that lasts for 10+ years, that they could just enjoy at their leisure as being as hardcore as they want or as casual as they want. And we just continue to deploy that content. We didn't want to really be restricted to a box on a shelf. So yeah, I totally understand. And really, when you get down to it, are living games that much different than a boxed game? Like there's a lot of
Nowadays, no.
there's a lot of games that you spend a lot of years working on. You put it on a box, you put it on a shelf, and it doesn't resonate with players for a variety of reasons: competition, wrong time of the year, people
Yeah.
focused on something else. Just didn't click because it's artistic as much as it is scientific. So, we tried to set Towerborne up in the best possible way that it could live for a very long time and we could support it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think we recognize that with a living game, content is king. If you run out, it's hard to bring people back to the game. It's hard for them to believe in the promise that there will be continued content there. And so we've got, yes. Do we have a roadmap? Yes. Are we going to announce it here? No. We expect to remain fully engaged and communicative with the players and the community. McLaren and I are both, well, I'm probably more active than anyone at the moment on Discord and just talking with people. And we hear it loud and clear. You have to make sure that you're engaging. You have to make sure you're communicating. You got to tell us what's coming. Why are we sticking around? We have product manager here at Stoic, has worked on similar games, understands how to balance, major feature work, minor feature work.
Yeah, of course.
Quality of life things, bugs, like it all. That's the thing. It's very much what is the rhythm you're going to get in, because you have to manage all of those things all at once, and it can be a lot. But I'm confident in this team. I'm confident in what we put together. Like I said, the core of this is so fun. It's very entertaining. That continuing to expand on that should be fairly easy for us. It's just a matter of how do we get more content quicker, more features. Yeah. What's the next boss? What's the next weapon? People will be hungry for that, and I don't think we have any doubt in our ability to deliver on that.
Yeah, for sure. Echoing what you guys have said, it was surprisingly refreshing for me as a person that plays a lot of video games. I like side-scrolling beat-em-ups, but then I was like, and I described it in our review as Streets of Rage meets Castle Crashers and had a baby with Destiny, right? Because it's like that's. I know that sounds weird, but that's how it comes across to me. Because you've got the belfry, the tower, right? And what I loved about it was that it brought back. I'm 40 now, sadly. I know I look older, but I think back to my 20s when, I used to work night shifts and you'd sit and you'd game and you'd chat, and the friendship groups you've had. And now people have broken off into the ones that are still skillful enough to keep up with the sweaty kids at Call of Duty or off over there, the guys that want to just play Destiny are over here. And it's nice to have a game that you can just sit back with. You're still focused, you're still entertained, you can converse, you can have a little bit of back and forth. But when it gets real, everyone suddenly leans forwards and starts taking it seriously. And I can't wait to see where this goes, guys. 20 plus hours. I know I'm going to be quickly putting them in again, because I'm going to lament not having my level 4 danger license back once more. Yeah. And best of luck for the launch. Is there anything that you would like to shout out, to call out to folks that might be watching this interview today, where they can find you, all of that fun stuff? We'll put links in the description below as well. But anything you'd like to shout out before we wrap things up here?
Well, if you're interested in continuing the conversation, Discord is a great place to be right now. Very engaged there. Towerborne is on Steam, so please feel free to come and join us. I look forward to playing with the community. I have often said I'm Towerborne's #1 fan. I don't get paid to say that. I just am, and I just really enjoy it. And I can't wait to see, hear, feel the reaction from players.
100%. Yeah. And and not to be afraid to give us feedback. That's the big thing for the future of this game. We think we have a pretty solid content plan in mind, but people getting in and playing, and even if you play for 10 minutes and you're like, oh man, I wish you had this, and that, go into the Discord, give us the feedback, let us see it. I think you'll find that there are already updates we've made prior to launch based off of our early players making statements to us. So it's very important that if you want it to be shaped a certain way, get in there and play and let us know. So
awesome. Well, Trisha, Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat to us today, especially the day before launch. So absolutely best of luck for tomorrow. I'll be rooting for you guys. I will definitely be jumping back in Tuesday night, most likely. And I will see you on the battlefield, no doubt, or in the tower, perhaps, wandering around. If you enjoyed this video of 1v1, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe. And if you really love what XboxEra does, you can support us directly on Patreon by heading over to patreon.com/XboxEra. And we'll see you next time. Ciao for now.